Hello and welcome to First Year Experience Curriculum that aligns student and school needs. Thank you for coming today. Today's webinar will be recorded and it will be sent out tomorrow by email. If you have any questions, please enter them in the chat window and we'll address them during the session as we can or at the end of the webinar. And today's webinar is brought to you by Human Resources. Human Resources is a worldwide leader in the development and provision of online personal assessments, student success, and education and career development programs. We also have a free resume service that you can learn more about at humanresources.com. And we're very fortunate to have our own Nick Rabinovich here today to talk about course-based engagement and narrowing that gap between students and your institution. Nick oversees the educational content of our products and the resources that support those products. He works closely with the educational research consultants and performs his own research to continuously improve our current suite of products. Nick has worked in the online education and career development field for more than 20 years. Prior to that, he spent 7 years as a high school teacher covering several subject areas that included biology, physics, math, and psychology. Nick has a Bachelor of Science degree in biological sciences and psychology, and a Bachelor of Education in secondary education. And recently, he's also completed a data science certificate. The learning never stops. And with that, I'll welcome Nick to today's call.
Thank you for that great introduction. I always find it a little weird listening to your own bio, but that's good. I understand the need. So welcome everybody. Glad you can make it here, and I really hope that you can learn something today from what we have to provide, and hopefully I can learn something from the people there. Speaking of which, we're going to start with a few polls. We just want to get an idea of who's in our audience, so we're going to throw up a poll about your role in your institution, or if you work outside an institution. So you should see that pop up.
We have about 20% instructor, 20% administrator, and 60% other. We clearly missed a category.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if you put other, if you can find the chat, which you should be able, hopefully you can find quickly, just enter a brief sort of label for what you see your role as.
That would be great. And the chat should just be at the bottom of the screen. We have a trio SSS advising specialist.
Okay. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And while people are responding to that, oh, we got a couple of the same thing.
Yeah.
Great. Why don't you throw up that other poll too, about your current FYE program, if it does exist, what what it is exactly, and what are the parameters of that program? So there should be three different questions that are in that poll about the parameters of your current FYE program at your institution. And by the way, if you don't have an FYE program at all in your institution, I guess just don't answer it, but maybe throw something in the chat to describe what your interest here is today to learn about FYE curriculum. If you plan on implementing one soon, for example, or you advise institutions about FYE programs rather than have one yourself.
Looks like we have about 2/3 non-credit and not required.
Okay.
And
Okay.
growing a little bit. And the format used is 50-50 between course and orientation.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, you've probably seen this. I imagine if you've been in this industry for any length of time, you know that making something required just gets much more effectiveness built into the program. But I know it's not within our power every time to make it required. But that can be the goal, and hopefully the quality of the program, it's a bit chicken or egg. If you can make the quality of the program excellent, which I'm hoping I can provide a option for that today, that the powers that be are more willing to make it required. So that's one of the goals I'm going to talk about today. So I'll start to move forward. The agenda is not really packed, and I'm going to apologize right now. I'm going to be looking kind of left and right off my monitor because I have two monitors, so I'm not always looking at my camera. So if it looks like I'm not paying attention, it's just because I'm looking at multiple monitors. But we're going to be addressing the needs gap in terms, like we said in the title of the webinar, between the school and students about the different needs that go on, and the solution that we can hopefully talk about today is something that can bridge that gap. I'm going to be spending most of my time in a live demonstration of a product that I believe addresses that gap, as well as some other issues around FYE and being successful in FYE. We'll just do a quick summary review of it. By the way, that's going to be placed into sort of a PDF handout with a few links to additional resources and details if you're interested that we can send out. And we're going to talk a little bit about some resources and crosswalks that sort of prove the efficacy of the program. There was a lot of research, a lot of effort went into designing this program to meet a bunch of criteria, including the rigorousness and being evidence-based in its approach. So we're proud of that fact. So we're going to point that out with some of the crosswalks and case studies that we've had and completed over the years. So just as a quick graphic to kind of illustrate the point of the needs gap, on the right, you can see some of the needs of faculty in college you typically see for FYE programs. They want them to be rigorous. They need to be LMS compatible because typically everything runs through the LMS nowadays in post-secondary systems. It needs to be flexible to meet the needs of often different institutions, but even different instructors within an institution. And it needs to get up and running very quickly. Very often we know FYE programs are delivered by people who don't necessarily have a lot of experience in delivering the program. And so for them to sort of build it up from scratch, like in OER or in other ways that things need to be built up, it's very difficult. So the solution we're going to talk about today is hopefully very plug and play, and that it can get up and running very easily with very little effort. And support for that as you go through the academic calendar is very quick. It's not like things get handed off to you and you're left on your own to handle it all. Hopefully it has quick support all along the way, which is something that we're going to talk about today. And of course, the student needs, they need to be affordable. I mean, post-secondary education is very expensive nowadays. The loan industry is a very profitable industry, it seems, unfortunately. So we try to address that by making the solution affordable. Of course, it needs to be engaging, personalized, so that people feel connected to it, easy for them to access. And feedback is a critical one. In fact, in the past, I've done webinars strictly around this. There's a lot of evidence in education and psychology to show that people are tuned in if they can get feedback quickly and the feedback is relevant to their needs. When students have to wait, I in fact have a daughter right now who's in her first year of university, ironically, and she's talking about how she hadn't gotten any feedback until almost halfway through the second month of university in terms of the assignments that she's provided and tests that she's written. And it saddens me a little bit, being in the industry that I'm in, that that's the case, because I know that, and she has expressed this too, that she is in limbo about how am I doing? I don't know what's going on. And so having that quick, immediate feedback is really important. And the solution that we're going to talk about today address that, what I'll show you. And so the solution that we are going to talk about today is a solution called College Scope. Tried to be aptly named. It handles the scope of college for students and for educators. So that's why we named it as such. So that being said, I'm going to jump into a live demo. So what I'm going to do with the live demo, and I'll qualify this in advance, I'm going to show this College Scope solution in an LMS environment. I just happen to pick Canvas because that happens to be a fairly popular LMS environment, but College Scope does work within multiple LMS environments as well as completely on its own. So if you happen to be at an institution, actually, I think did we have a poll question about that, Tamara, about the LMS solution that they had?
Yes, we do. Ready to
Okay.
launch it?
Yeah, please launch that. Sorry, I
All
almost
right.
forgot.
We have one Canvas user.
That's lucky.
And and Blackboard. So looks like we're close to split between Blackboard and Canvas. Canvas slight edge.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
so like I said, it applies to both of those LMS environments. We've developed something along what's called an LTI standard, which seems to be a standard that the vast majority of LMS systems use out there. And there's another big benefit we'll talk about, or I will talk about. This is the LMS environment, by the way. This is Canvas, if anyone is familiar. And I'm logged into a course that has been built in the Canvas shell, mostly using the college scope content. So these little line items that you see here pertain mostly to college scope modules or chapters, sometimes we call them. And those have been imported into the Canvas environment like you see here, and they act just like a regular Canvas assignment that you can create in multiple other ways. Where we believe our product, College Scope, differs is that we've broken our product into multiple modules that seamlessly integrate rather than linking off one product, that one link that goes out to a product that you have to kind of go through. And there's not a lot of talking that goes back and forth between the LMS environment and the product. Ours does a lot of talking back and forth. So as students are working in the college scope content in the curricula, it talks to the LMS system so that you get updates very precisely about how the students are working, and you're able to provide feedback to them as well directly in that environment. So we have a very deep integration between College Scope and the LMS environment. As well, it allows that flexibility. You can see here, I've inserted other things like there's a welcome to this class piece, there's a midterm in the middle of the College Scope modules. So these would all be College Scope modules that I'm mousing over here. And then these would be the additional ones. And these can be reordered. They can be turned on or off so that if you only wanted to use part of the solution or in a different order, you could do that. And that's that flexibility I mentioned for different instructors within a college or different institutions in terms of what they need. We built the overall College Scope curriculum, as you can see here, to be very robust and complete. It addresses all the major factors that come up around FYE and what drives success for students in FYE. And it's even crosswalked, as I mentioned, I'm going to show you near the end, to different standards that have looked at FYE and what makes students successful and colleges successful for that matter. And so we address all those, but we realize that not every institution or every faculty can have the time to deliver all of these. So these can be flexible and removed or used as needed, basically, because of the way we've integrated it in Canvas or other LMS systems. So what does the content look like? I'm sure you're asking that by now, and I will dive right in. I'm in what's called a student view, but as you can see here, I'm actually logged in as a sort of faculty member, and I'm just doing the student demo, but I'm going to give you both flavors of what it looks like from a student perspective and from a faculty perspective. So pretty straightforward, kind of like a textbook or a curriculum series. You get different modules, like I said here, that you go through. Once they get completed, they get links to say, here's my results. In this case, it's ungraded. The instructor hasn't finished grading that particular chapter or module, but they have graded this one for some reason. And the other thing that we know is a differentiator between College Scope and other FYE solutions out there is we've integrated full-blown assessments, self-assessments in the solution. So we have a personality type assessment, we have a multiple intelligence assessment, we have a learning and productivity assessment, and we have a skills assessment. These are full-blown, well-researched assessments. We started off as a company, actually as an assessment company, and had a bunch of full-blown assessments, which they take about 15 to 20 minutes to complete for students. They ask a series of psychometrically validated questions, and they get personalized results. I can show you what that looks like right here. Here's a result of personality assessment. You may recognize this as based on MBTI research or Carl Jung, the introversion, extroversion, etc. They get their profile, they get different sections which make recommendations based on their results. They see their strengths and challenges, and in multiple areas. They see it for learning, for work and productivity, for communication, and they even get career suggestions. So these are personalized career suggestions based on their results, with a bunch of career data so they can research careers that align with programs that they plan on taking in university or college, and or even what they may be able to do right now. So different levels of work depending on where they are in their career. So, and this is just a small part of the overall solution, but the fact that we've built in these assessments allows the overall curriculum to become more personalized. And that's what I mentioned earlier on about that needs gap. Students know that they're getting results that are meaningful to them, and we have written a curriculum in such a way that they get to apply that self-learning through the assessment into areas of the curriculum, into areas of college readiness, career exploration, setting goals, how they can learn best, how can they be most productive, how they can communicate and collaborate better with peers, with faculty, and potentially with family and beyond. So we're really proud of the fact that we've built in that personalization to the assessments. So you see two of the assessments here. There would be two more interspersed into the curriculum later on. So I'm going to show you now. Sorry, I'm going to look back at my script. When they first enter into I'll go back to the assignments just to show you how it would work from there. So remember, these are all the assignments that would be built into a course with the College Scope modules interspersed as needed in there. When they first clicked on one of the modules that related to College Scope content, let's say it's college readiness, it would go to unlock a particular module in College Scope curriculum like this. So I unlocked a module called College Readiness in this case. And I would begin that chapter. You'll notice the very beginning of that chapter, we start with a survey. And this is highly intentional and hopefully provides both a measure for students and for faculty to see where these questions are related to learning outcomes for this particular module. So the student gets to indicate their level of confidence around a particular learning outcome, both at the beginning of a chapter, and then this would be repeated at the end, and they would see a measure of their progress in that chapter based on the learning outcomes. With my education background, it was hammered into me that learning outcomes are critical for knowing what you're going to measure, knowing how to stay focused, and for being transparent to learners to say, here's what you're going to learn. Now, did you learn that? And do you feel comfortable with that? What else do you need to learn if you haven't learned all that? So that is critical for understanding whether you're being effective with your FYE program, obviously. I'm going to show you what that looks like after they've completed it. So in this case, I've shown you a chapter where it hasn't been started, so they would complete it. They would go through all the content, all these pages, get to the end, and then see sort of the post outcome assessment, as you can call it here, or survey. But I'll go back to the personal awareness one and show you what that looks like near the end. So let's jump to the end. Now, this one has been completed, and we're talking about an ideal student who, at the end of a particular chapter, they've indicated everything is great. But if you scroll down, you can see at the beginning of the chapter, they weren't as confident in learning outcomes, and we saw a score of 58% confidence on their learning outcomes. At the end, they were 100. So we can see the difference made over the course of that chapter. And that's a metric that can come out in the reports. You can aggregate it and see, on average, for a module around college readiness, we saw X% improvement in this class as a result of completing that module. And that's a metric you can take all the way up the food chain with the university and say, hey, look, my FYE program is being this effective on these outcomes. How about we make this thing a required thing, or for credit, or both, ideally. So that's the sort of beginning and end of each module, but I'll go into a little more detail about what goes on within each module. Let's go to page 19, where I'm going to show you something, example of an embedded video. So it's not just boring text like you might see in some curricula. We've embedded videos. In this case, happens to be a TED video, which obviously is very effective. I love TED videos myself, and we've had positive responses from students in terms of watching them. We try to keep them relatively short, 10, 12 minutes at most. And of course, they get a reflection. So it's not just passive viewing. Afterwards, we see how much they've taken away from the video by building in these reflection questions, which can or if chosen not be part of the grade that students may receive for this. Of course, you may have a pass-fail system or you have a grading system. It's always preferable, but either way, this can be built into that sort of checks and balances system that you have for your FYE program. By the way, if anyone has a question anytime, I like to do my presentations where I'm answering questions in the flow of the presentation rather than wait for the end. So feel free to post a question in the chat like you see, or if you're really brave and you want to take yourself off of mute, because it looks like we could probably handle that. We've had a pretty quiet crowd so far. Tamara, is that enabled for the participants or no?
It's possible if you just
Okay.
raise your hand or let me know. I can certainly turn on people's audio. I don't like to do it all of a sudden on people.
Yeah. But yeah, if you'd like to ask audio, I'm happy to answer questions in the flow. I don't feel disrupted by that, so feel free. And I know I talk fast, so feel free to ask questions to slow me down, even if that's the case. So, like I said, reflection on videos, another interactive piece of the program. I'm going to jump over to 20 now. I'm looking at my script to remember where to go. Here's an example of a page where it's broken into text pieces, but you'll notice here this text looks highlighted because we do have a highlighting feature just like a book. So if I am reading this as a student, I realize, oh, this is important. This looks like it could be on the exam. I just quick highlight. And anytime I come back to this page as a student, I can open up my little highlighting tab and say, okay, here are the important points. So if I'm reviewing for a test or reviewing for whatever reason, I can see just a quick summary of the points, major points on the page through this just sliding tab that goes that way. So that's a nice little feature that's been built into this. And I can also add notes to that, by the way. I don't know if I forgot to mention that. So for this one, for example, I highlighted this text and then I added a little annotation here. So this is likely going to be a test question. So I should probably remember this as a student. So obviously a good study strategy. And so we enabled that in the curriculum. Of course, we always do a lot of reflection. So rather than just passively reading text, students are prompted to reflect on that. It's particularly reflect on it, what it means for them in their own situation. So you'll see questions like this. These little X's, by the way, are just, we fill it in as we go through as a sample student just to complete the page and move forward. Another thing we built in is reflection on the learning outcome. So not only is important for instructors, but very important for students to know what they are supposed to be learning around this content. And so we ask for reflection like this around those learning outcomes for each. Okay. And I will show you what looks like a quiz. So near the end of each module or chapter, we have a quiz which is auto-scored, and that auto-scoring is really nice because it means pretty much immediate feedback. As soon as the quiz is submitted by the student, they get feedback, and it's detailed feedback. In this case, I get to link back to the content in this chapter that relates to this particular question. So why did I get this question about logotherapy wrong? I could have sworn that was the right answer. What went wrong on that question? So I just click on this, and I'm thrown back in the chapter to the location where that particular question was addressed. So learning even after a quiz goes on, because very often in implementations we've seen with College Scope, the quizzes that are built in here are really just preparation for larger tests or evaluations that happen with students external to the College Scope program itself, but based on the content that it's built on. So that's what has now jumped back to page 11. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here. This is an example where we've integrated the assessments that I mentioned earlier directly in the content of the program. So as a student was progressing through the content and they got to this particular section or page, they would be prompted to complete the personality assessment within that text, get their results right within that text, and then, of course, have application of what they've learned from their report, their assessment report, right here in the text. So this is an action plan as a result of reviewing a specific section in their personality report, and they could apply that right then and there. Okay. Um, I will jump now to the graded results, where I can see the overall summary of a particular module and how well I performed, or all the interactive pieces in that particular chapter module. For example, I didn't do very well here on the quiz, 20%. If I wanted to view the details on that, I can see what my answer was versus what the correct answer was, as well as all the options that I had. And I can see all the open-ended questions that I was prompted to complete during the chapter. So here you see there's quite a few. Typically, they expect short responses, so it's not overly burdensome for the student. But in terms of grading, it's easier than you think it might be. Not all of this would necessarily be applied to the grade, but we usually apply one grade that the instructor would review content provided by the student or responses from the student, and then it's a 0 to 10 grade, so it's not overly burdensome. And I'll show you a little bit more about that and how easy we tried to make it for instructors or anyone who's helping an instructor to grade the work and move quickly through a class. One more thing on the student side is, and this is something that we feel stands out with College Scope compared to others, is the help ability. So we have a combination of live help. So there's a live chat and we have live voice for instructors, not for students, but for instructors. But we've also recently integrated an AI agent. And I know everybody's hearing about AI, and what we've done trained this AI model to do is learn about our particular product here, College Scope, and what other people have needed help on in the past. So it knows where do I get my access key, because if the first time they go into here, they're going to be prompted for an access key to get in, and they learn right from here. We trained it. This AI knows, oh, this question's been asked before, so it's about talking to your instructor or the bookstore to get your access key, as well as here's some more flat help guides to tell them where do they go to get their access key so they can open up College Scope for the first time. And they can get it through a bookstore, and that way they can use any grant or loan money they access through the bookstore, or they can do it directly online with credit card at the student level. So it's not a burden for the instructor, but we do have other models where colleges have sort of prepaid for a version of it so that students will get an access key to individually access it. So we allow multiple models and that so that we can keep it both affordable and accessible for all kinds of students. But that's a nice little feature that we have as a help guide for students. All right, I think I'm ready to show the instructor side. So this, by default, it moves to a sort of what we call our speed grader or easy grader. So you can see the different modules from College Scope listed out here. These numbers and brackets simply indicate how many people in that section are ready for grading. So if I were to go to introduction, I can see this test student is ready for grading. The number 2 here is not completely accurate because I'm just in a demo account that has a special hidden user that's amping up the numbers, so just disregard that. But normally these numbers would reflect the number of people who are ready for grading for each of these. So at a glance, I can see, oh, I'm ready for grading. So at any time, this updates in real time. So I would simply click on the student who's ready for grading. I would review their response. In this case, it was a response to this question, which I can then say, oh, here's the grade I want to apply. And by the way, if you're using assistants or TAs, for example, to help instructors grade this kind of thing, their time is limited. Rubrics can be built here and here. That's what these grading notes are, so that teaching assistants, etc., can help with the grading more easily. This will be displayed to professionals or TAs, whoever's deemed a professional for the class, to help grade different student responses. So let's say, for example, I thought this was a perfect one, and I just said, great job. And then I can move on to the next student. Let's say I had 30 students or more to go through. That's how quick I can grade this student, and I can just click next, and it would jump to this exact same page for the next student, and I can just quickly go through and speed grade all those students just to make their job easier. I'm just going to save and close for now. And you can see that one disappeared from there and they've moved to the already graded section. So at a glance, I can see that. Of course, at a glance, I can also see students who have not completed it. So I know who to follow up with if they get behind. So it's a quick check to make sure students are keeping up with the curriculum. Okay. The next thing I was going to show now, and I'm looking back at my script, pardon my pause.
If there are
Right.
any questions, feel free to type them into the chat or just raise your hand and I can unmute you if you'd like to speak.
So you saw that I graded that student, and this speaks further to the deep integration that we have. If you go into the grade book, whether it's like Blackboard or Canvas, like I said before, that automatically gets updated here. So you saw I graded that student 10 out of 10 in that one chapter that appeared right here. This is grades that were entered in before. So all the modules that College Scope has get populated into the gradebook automatically like this, and they default to just out of 10, but that can be changed if needed. If you wanted to weight it differently, you can change it as you please. It's up to the instructor. It's not dictated by the College Scope itself. It's set at the LMS grade level. We just default it to 10 just so it doesn't have to be applied each time. So if you wanted to weight different modules differently, you can. And then, of course, the running grades. So this is just the Canvas gradebook or any LMS gradebook for that matter. Okay. I will go back to the main screen here and show you some more resources for that. So I showed you the grading piece. If you wanted to review all the content in there, and you didn't want to have to log in as a student like that, we do have this review copy, which basically just lets you jump to any page or section within the entire curriculum. You can jump around as you please, and you don't have to fill in any of the responses. It just allows you, it's sort of like a teacher copy, for, if you will, of the entire curriculum. So if you wanted to review it. We also have a lot of instructor materials in support. So this will take you to our overall knowledge base. And if you wanted to see any resources there, type it in. Here's College Scope. So frequently asked questions about scholarships that can get offered through College Scope, and a complete instructor manual, which comes with additional lesson plans and even some guides about what to do with students in the classroom, because most of this is self-directed. Students can do a lot of this outside of class time. Of course, they can do it in class time if they want, if that's the instructor's wish, but we provide additional materials that can be used in class to follow up and deepen the learning based on that. But because we've designed it to be self-directed, this can be work in a sort of an orientation type situation, or self-directed type situation, depending on how you want to implement your FYE program. You have that flexibility. If you wanted to look at all the learning outcomes and the summary of the entire thing, that's nicely summarized in this. And then, of course, like we have case studies, etc. Something that I do want to show off here, and this is something I did hint at earlier, is the support for national initiatives. The curriculum was built based on standards that are national in nature. The CAS, which is the Council for Advancement of Standards in Higher Education, we built a detailed crosswalk. So if you happen to follow that standard, this would be really useful to see. Here are the standards listed on the left side, and then here would be the area of College Scope where that standard is addressed. And we've built that for the entire publication. If that is your concern. Of course, we have crosswalks with pathways, which I know is popular in California, but I think extends outside of that, and as well as CASEL, if that is part of what your university's goals are to address CASEL standards, we have a crosswalk for that as well. All right. And then, of course, we have the case studies, like I mentioned, show evidence of effectiveness. We've done 2 major case studies with South Louisiana and with College of Southern Idaho, and saw some significant effectiveness in terms of increasing retention rates increasing interest in the program itself. So they increased enrollment in their FYE programs over the years as it became known that this was an effective course, both on the student side and on the faculty side. And they were able to ramp up faculty more quickly because of the plug and play nature of College Scope. And I think that does it. I apologize if I was talking too fast for some of you out there, but I'm going to jump back to this PowerPoint just to sort of quickly review all the benefits and hopefully what I showed you. If there's something here you see that we're claiming is great, but I didn't demonstrate in a demo, tell me now, or if there's something else you want to see in our live demo product, I still have it open behind this window. I'd be happy to show anyone, but I wanted to cut myself off there to respect your time and give time to ask questions and respond. So are there any questions, concerns, or want me to show anything else?
I don't see anything at this time.
How many people, just in through the chat are interested in what they saw here today in terms of, or learned something new about possibilities for FYE programs and the resources that can be provided to them? Any feedback around that saying, this looks like the same old thing we've always seen, or I did see something new and what you noticed? Be honest, I can take it. My ultimate goal is to improve this. I want to see students succeed. I want to see college succeed. So if there's something missing from this, please let me know. And obviously we'll take that to heart and try to improve upon what we offer.
And we have Carla Lundman on today's call as well. And Carla is able to get you guest access, and you can have a look at the curriculum yourself and explore it in your own time, as well as have a look at the assessments. Her email address is carlal@humanesources.com. And Carla will actually be the person who's sending you out the email tomorrow with the recording from today's session. So it'll be just a quick reply if you had another question. And yeah. Yeah, and Carla just has a note here. She'd like people to know that the online interactive text, the training is free of charge with it. Virtually, and the text itself is, as Nick showed, learning management system or LMS integrated, customizable, and it's also affordable in its pricing.
Yeah, our pricing typically comes in well under that of what a typical textbook costs. Of course, the exact price it depends a little bit about on the number of students who plan to use it. So that's why we don't mention a specific price right now, but I can tell you that it is far less than the typical textbook.
Yeah. Okay. And if we don't have any questions today, feel free to reach out to us. We'll include Nick's email address as well. So you can reach out to him. He's always gathering research as in his position here at Human Resources. So I know he loves to hear from people. And I'll thank Nick for his time today, as well as thank everybody who took time out of their day to come today. It's certainly appreciated. And if you don't mind, one more request is that we have a quick, very quick 5 questions. If you could just answer a quick survey for us at the end that you'll see pop up at the end of this session. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.